pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. First on the agenda is House of Prayer and Worship, 365 Hill Street, site plan review. Mike, I believe you had some comments?
All necessary variances were granted by the ZBA and are noted on the plat. All zoning comments have been addressed.
Rich?
So, Mr. Chairman, there's just two comments. There has to be engineering fee and performance bond for the stormwater management practice, erosion sediment control, that needs to be posted. And the applicants will need to just provide some information on the bathrooms and holding tank, how the unit will be maintained, and how water will connect into the unit, and how the unit will control overflows. Otherwise, I think this is good to go forward.
Thank you. Pat?
Likewise, Mr. Chairman, and they've also received DEC, DEP, and ECB approval for this, so they're ready to go to public hearing on this.
Comments from the board? Joel, you want to respond on
Sure.
Rich about the
Yeah, well,
facilities?
we'll work with Rich as far as the bond is concerned over the next week or so. But his comments regarding the holding tank and the condition that the health department put on, I'll get you a copy. There's an agreement with one of the companies that does the clean out of the holding tank, and that's agreed. Also, the health department required us to put alarms on so that if the system does fail, alarm will go off, and there'll still be at least 50% more capacity in the tank. So all that's been taken care of.
Okay, perfect. So that should be provided in a drawing, or at least that
It's-
detail,
it's-
and
it's
whatever
on-
you have on a write-up.
It's already
Perfect.
on the drawings.
Thanks.
Now, Rich, do you have a copy of that?
I don't remember seeing those specifics in the submittals that were in. I'd have to double check, but if Joel can just give them to us. I mean, I'm good otherwise. I'm not worried that Joel won't get this information in the next couple, 3 days.
Rose has all that. She has it.
All right, we'll just close on that in parallel to moving forward, right?
Yeah, no
Okay,
problem.
thank you. Comments from the board?
No, you asked the question I was going to ask.
There's no comments. We need a motion to schedule a public hearing.
I'll make a motion to schedule the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Also, Mr. Chairman, since this has been around for a long time, could we have a resolution ready since we've taken care of all the comments?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, Joe. This has been around for a while. We've all kicked the tires pretty hard on this, and if we can speed up the process a little bit.
Thank you very much.
As long as there's no really outcry from the public, I'm not expecting any, but if everything goes quiet, if everything goes well in 2 weeks,
I don't think
I'll
so.
have to have a resolution prepared, and we could save you a little bit of time.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is Binns Family Trust, 5 Vesey Lane South, for a site plan. Mike, please.
The applicant proposes to add a large building at the existing mixed-use property on Vesey Lane South. What are the uses on the property? Each of the buildings should be labeled what's inside them. Provide a parking calculation. I didn't see that on the plat. Provide aisle widths, both one-way and two-way. It's a little confusing because there's topo lines in some of the areas, so just make sure you show us what the aisles are when anywhere that it's close.
No problem.
The dumpster enclosure appears to be partially in the traveled way. What is the two-way aisle width at that point? The dumpster is, I think it's just above the lowest existing building. Provide lot coverage, 30% is the max permitted by code. Provide a list of all previous variances granted and/or denied by the Zoning Board of Appeals. A variance will be required for the building for property line setback. However, there may be more variances needed. Once I get the other information, I'll be able to tell that. Provide the height of the building on the drawing. It shows up to the eave, but it doesn't, or up to one side, but it doesn't show the whole height of the roof. Just provide that for us. What is the proposed use of the building? Joel told me it's going to be storage of trucks, I think, and storage of their
Storage-
equipment.
The equipment, yes, for the business.
But just maybe when you're explaining, give us the whole explanation. Can the 25-foot right-of-way or the 15-foot New York telephone easement be blocked by cars and/or parking spaces. The town council should look into this. There's an easement that runs through, but we'll have you look at that.
It's a shared driveway, right?
No.
No, the easement goes through the property. There's already been, it goes all the way up beyond that.
It goes from the top of Vesey North, comes down the center of Vesey North, down Route 6, down the center of Vesey, and then it continues through what is now our parcel.
I'm sorry, but you have to use a microphone. I don't mean
Oh, I'm
to be
sorry.
annoyed, but nobody can hear that.
So what's it used for?
The easement was granted way back in the 70s for Verizon or whatever, New York Tel at that time. It was to get service from their building on Bucks Hollow Road to, no, it's all the way up by,
Rolling Greens?
yeah, all the way up on the hill by the high school up
Yeah,
there?
Rolling
Okay,
Greens.
So,
actually-
so they needed service up there, so they got an easement to run underground wires. We've been there since 72. I never seen the manhole opened once. I think it was just to lay the lines. They don't actually.
Actually, I know. Yeah. Mike, your point's well taken. Let me just expound upon what Ed said. And I do remember now, back in the 70s, that the telephone company had requested a line coming actually down Muscoot North, where I am, all the way down to a big manhole on Bolton Place Road. But again, it's all under pavement, it's all under wires, but there are manholes, periodically, if they ever have to get to it. But,
What about the right-of-way part of it, though? It says New York Telephone has a 15-foot, and then it says 20-foot right-of-way, I believe, or 25-foot right-of-way.
Right.
What is the difference?
that
on
was
those two?
probably an old situation where Vesey Road, before they took it over, actually went through, but obviously it's no longer.
Maybe I'll send it to Joe, and we'll discuss it,
Okay.
just to make sure.
Yeah, Joe, if you need any information from us, let us know.
Rich?
So referrals, as noted, it's proposed to install a couple of storage buildings on the property. Referral to the Mahopac Fire Department will be warranted. The area disturbance has not been provided, so we don't know if it's going to exceed any threshold criteria for New York State DEC stormwater regulations. The applicant must provide at a minimum erosion sediment control measures for the proposed work, details on the control of stormwater on and off the site. Any public improvements, engineering fee, or performance bond would be required. Stormwater maintenance agreement, if necessary, may be required. The facility is not served by either water or sewer. I wrote septic in my memo, I apologize. Details for these services must be provided, so the water and sewer on site should be or septic on site should be provided. Driveway easements to access the property from Route 6 should be provided. There are some detailed comments. They're pretty much standard comments, but survey of the property should be provided. There should be a legend. Applicant should provide 2-foot intervals. Graphic representation of vehicles moving through the site should be provided. Landscaping plans should be provided. Construction sequence should be provided. Lighting spill plan should be provided. Rose will provide the comments to Joe.
Thanks, Rich. And Pat, you also had some comments.
Yeah, and just repeating both Mike and Rich's comments on this, so there's a lot of clarification that needs to be provided. The primary issue is, Joel's been describing the building as several buildings. It appears as though it's a single building with attachments to it, so just.
Correct.
It's probably more than semantics. We just have to understand what the building's all about. I think there's 5 separate storage spaces in the building, but it's essentially a single building. So how the building is going to operate is the primary issue, as you heard from Mike and Rich, how that's going to be used and how it would be accessed through a site, which is a pretty busy site. So those dimensional requirements that Mike referred to have to be functional as well. If this is a warehouse that's utilizing very large trucks, we'd have to sort of understand how they maneuver through the site and so forth. So most of the issues relate to really what the building's being used for and how it will operate. And again, as you heard from Rich and Mike, there's clarifications that need to be provided regarding how it's being constructed on the site, served by utilities. Is the building going to be air conditioned and heated? Is it all of those clarifications need to be provided. Just the one comment about the easements. It may be that it was simply for a New York telephone line 50 years ago, but the easement itself may have further restrictions. on top of that. You can't do this, you can't do that. So Joe has to take a look at that to make sure there's nothing prohibiting what the applicant's proposing embedded in those easements, and that's something we have to unravel, which gets complicated.
Thanks, Pat. Sure. Joe, before I open up to the board, maybe you want to try to answer some of these questions, and explain what the use will be and any impacts on traffic. I mean, I've gone out to that site. It's a very crowded site, obviously, and lots happening there.
Yeah. Basically, this is at the end of Vesey Road South. Route 6 is way up over here. Excuse me, the other way around. Yeah, it's up over here. And basically, there's a residence over here, an office space over here, and the building that's being proposed is basically to store for the business that Ed Binns is doing, the pest control business, and it's just basically to keep the vehicles and his equipment inside instead of outside with the trucks on the property. As far as the easement is concerned, as we mentioned, this right-of-way does go all the way up across Route 6, up the hill and down into
So,
Rolling.
Joe, I'm sorry to interrupt you. So when you turn off of Route 6, you make a left to go down
Yeah.
in there. The building on the right, there's a driveway that goes around. Is that building there?
Yeah, in other words, if you went to the site, the sign that I put up, the planning board sign, is right over here, and right after that is the driveway that basically services the house, and then it comes around here and services the office building over here. So basically, this is empty space here now, which is where we want to put this storage building. And if you look carefully, there's a huge storage building, which is about 50% higher than what we're proposing, which is on the property right next door. So we're basically building back to back. And again, it's for the storage of the pest control business. And of course, we did the calculation for the parking, and we have parking over here. And as Mike mentioned, to make sure that paving over this area where the easement comes through, I believe there shouldn't be a problem, because again, this easement goes across Route 6 and comes down my street, and it's paved over. But as you can see, there's a manhole. There are manholes periodically, so that if they ever have to pull wire, they certainly will be able to do that. And we'll answer those questions with regard to specific uses. The area is fairly well landscaped, and the landscaping that's there mentioned it on the site plan, and we'll be more specific about it and answer all your questions. But it's just basically a storage building. Oh, to answer Pat's question, it's not going to be air conditioned, so we don't have to worry about that. I think there's any other questions that you have?
So no air conditioning, no heating?
Correct.
Lighting?
Yes, there'll be lighting.
What type of lighting is planned on the exterior?
No, well, on the exterior, there'll just be some lighting over each of the overhead doors, and then the rest of the lighting, everything else, of course, will be inside.
Downward lit?
Yes.
What's going to be the impact traffic? What do you anticipate?
Well, actually, to answer that question, the impact is zero, because basically the same trucks that he uses now are parked on the site, and now they'll be stored inside, so the traffic is basically a wash.
So that's, Joel, so one of the primary questions, is this being done because the business has grown exponentially? So that's kind of a question embedded in what the chairman's asking. Is this being done because you're expanding and would have 20 more vehicles on the site and so forth? So that would require...
No, basically, as you can see from the plan, we're showing five vehicles to be stored in the building, and that's the limit.
And Joel, I just asked Mike, any unusual storage requirements for pesticides or chemicals that might be associated with the business?
Those are already established in, based on the DEC regulations. They're already in a contained unit. We don't stock large quantities.
That's what it would be, volume is what controls it.
We don't have that, we get shipping every week, so we keep low volume.
What's in the other buildings?
Well, we just broke them up just for basic usage. I got the whole site.
I mean, the existing buildings, I'm sorry. So the
The
front building is still a house?
Front building still has, my parents live there. My
Yep.
dad, 92, still go.
So that's still the house, and then
That
the
still has
second building?
bottom still has, I'm a tenant technically to the land upstairs, and we still have the Vinco builders downstairs. So,
So what's the ventilation like in the building? There's no air conditioning or heating, I'm sure there's windows or
Oh,
ventilation?
yeah, there'll be, of course there'll be ventilation, yes.
Yeah. On the roof, on the walls?
No, windows will be on the walls.
No, anything on the ceiling, any kind of ventilation on the ceiling?
Well, we haven't designed the building yet, we're just getting to the point where we want to get a site plan, but obviously, that'll all be taken into consideration when we go for our building permit.
Joel, just remember, this board serves as the architectural board too, so I think,
Yep.
to the point, if there are unusual vents or circulation fans that are necessary for some reason, it's probably
Well,
something that
then
you
we'll,
want to share.
we'll go a little further and into that, so that the elevations will show anything that penetrates the roof or the walls.
So just to save yourself some time, to Vicky and Pat's point, you should provide more of that data than
Yeah.
less, just to speed things up for yourselves, because as Pat mentions, we do act as the architecture review
Sure,
board,
no
as you
problem.
know. There seems to be, quite a few questions that need to be answered yet, so I'm okay with just letting you provide the information.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Let Joe provide the information, and when it's ready, you can come back and talk to us in a couple of weeks.
You got it. Thank you so much.
Right, go ahead.
So, I'm sorry, did you guys say that he needs to go to zoning to? Oh, okay.
He will need to go, but we need to clarify a few things first.
Yeah.
We want to check the aisle widths and the building height, I think I asked for. There's a few things, and lot coverage and the parking calculation.
Yeah, there definitely will be at least one variance that I know, but again, depending on the answer all of Mike's questions, then maybe one or two more, but at least one, which is.
Because I just want to know its setbacks and a couple of other things.
If you look at the zoning chart, actually, there's, again, lot width and lot depth, there needs some small variances there. The requirement for the square footage is 40,000, we have 32,000. And there's a side yard variance and a rear yard variance. But again, as Mike said, we'll just review everything and make sure there are no other variances that we have to add
Yeah, I
on
think
to.
we need to clean it up first before we send it anywhere.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I also suggest the board to go look at that piece of property if you haven't already, because it's
Yeah,
quite,
again, if you go down the road, you'll see the planning board sign on the right-hand side,
Yep.
and that's the property right
Yep.
there.
okay,
Okay?
thank you.
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the Hamlet at Cornwall, Stoneleigh Avenue, amended site plan. Mike, I believe you had some comments?
I do, but it's it's shorter than it looks. They're trying to build a 120-unit multifamily, or actually it may be more now. Yeah, more at 150. Multifamily development, it is not senior housing, it is regular. The zoning board of appeals interpreted that multifamily dwellings are permitted in the R zone, using that section 15628, I believe it was. And then in July, they interpreted that they're allowed to do up to 5 units per acre. If you don't have sewer, obviously the DEP and the health department are not going to allow you to do anywhere near 5 units per acre. So it's really, if you have sewer, you're going to get the higher number. If you don't have it, you're not going to get it. I'm going to discuss with Jeff about the building type, because they're only allowed to do garden-style type apartments. This is 3 stories on the back. We've done this before with the Pulte subdivision up there. In the back, they were allowed to be taller, but we just want to sit down and discuss this so we can make sure that we're doing that right. So the whole middle of the thing is all the definitions of the height of the building. Engineering department needs to confirm the project conforms with section 15628A13. Adequate water supply shall be made available the entire year for fire protection purposes, and it goes on to talk about that. So we need to make sure we're rich that they're good there. And that's it.
Rich? Thanks, Mike.
So, just to touch base, Mike already covered it. There are referrals that are warranted to the standard regulatory agencies, permits from DEC for stormwater, which are already there, but probably needs to be amended on the SWIP. New York City DEP needs to be provided an updated form. Town of Cornwall, out of district water and sewer, they've already received that, but that still needs to be discussed. ECB wetlands permit. Separate existing conditions map should be provided. A comparison map of what was previously approved and what is being proposed should be provided as standalone documents, maps, and drawings. An updated wetland delineation should be performed. The applicant noted that the project gone through a previous approval. It's unclear as to when those wetlands were delineated and approved. This information must be provided. It's over, if it's over 10 years old, it probably needs to be redelineated, especially if it was approved by the DEC. I recommend to the applicant that we meet and talk about the water and sewer as Mike recommended, so I think we should have a separate meeting about that. It's nothing major, but it's just something we need to talk about, the water and wastewater report. Traffic study should be conducted is what the original comment was. The applicant provided traffic information in the full FEAF and supplemental studies. This information should be provided to the Putnam County Department of Highway and Facilities and an outside consultant for review and comment to make sure it still holds true, considering the conditions have changed in the original approvals on this, and there are going to be more units. Applicant has noted the need for a stormwater maintenance agreement and the need for performance bond and engineering fees. There are a bunch of other detailed comments. The applicant has generally noted all of them and will provide them at a future submittal. This is the beginning of this, I guess, right now, but they will provide all the information as part of those detailed site comments.
Thank you, Rich. And Pat?
So the applicant presented this to you a couple of weeks ago. The plan is now a 150-unit plan instead of the 120-unit plan that you saw previously. This, just to take a step back, was the Putnam Community Foundation senior housing project that was approved 10 years ago, something like that. That plan has been abandoned, and this is now a pursuant to, as Mike indicated, the interpretation by the zoning board, a non-age restricted housing development that is restricted, and it has various affordability levels built into it. The applicant's going to provide more information to us regarding how that's all going to work, but it's not an age-restricted project. We went through a full environmental review for the original plan, but as Rich indicated, time has passed and some things have changed over that period. So the applicant did a good job of providing you with a full environmental assessment form with some supplements. I'm asking for some clarifications to those documents to flesh out a couple of those issues because it's not, we simply can't rely on that original review. It's a different type of project, times have changed, circumstances have changed, so we really have to touch all those bases all over again. So issues like reviewing traffic and sewer and water and so forth. Operational issues are the primary concern. The physical impact on the site is less than the prior project, the coverage, the amount of disturbance to the property. So the physical impact on the property itself, probably not our concern. It's how this site operates and how people flush toilets and drive cars. Those are the kinds of issues we need to dig into and get a better understanding. So I've got a list of questions that Jeff and Tim Miller's office would need to clarify for us before we would move further along on this project.
Thank you, Pat.
Do you know if the fire department saw this yet? Okay, I just want to make sure they got it, because it's important that they can maneuver.
It would be fire departments, you'd have to hit Croton Falls up also, right? Because they're closer. Be Carmel and Croton Falls.
Your district.
That's the Carmel district? Got
Yeah,
it.
I think until you get down by Daisy, I think it is.
All right, it was pretty darn close, that's why I was recommending it. Okay.
Good evening, Ken.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Charbonneau, Mr. Canazza, Mr. Cleary, Mr. Francetti. Ken Carney from Carney Realty Group. I'm here tonight with my friend and project engineer, Jeff Cantalmo. When I appeared before you a few months ago, prior to seeking the zoning clarification, we were talking about a mixed income development of approximately 80 units and a market rate of 40 units. We've balanced that based on the interpretation. We've lowered the mixed income affordable to 75, and we're seeking to balance that with 75 units of market rate housing. They will be built concurrently. We'll probably do some type of land lease for one of the phases. We're not sure which phase will give a 99-year land lease to the other. But the mixed income affordable, my son and I have developed over 20 of these projects throughout New York State. We use a combination of tax credits and low interest loans from New York State. We turn the tax credits into equity through our equity provider, Raymond James Partners, out of Tampa, Florida. Raymond James Equity is our partner on all of our, we have 3 developments right over the town line in Somers. It's the same model that we've used down there. And as I stated a few months ago, we're developers, we're builders, but more importantly, we're managers. We're hands-on managers. We own and manage over 1,500 units throughout New York State. So we've done this model before, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
So Ken, maybe this question is more towards Jeff. What's the impact you're going to see on traffic, roads, sewer, septic? I mean, I would think that a senior housing is a lot different than what is contemplated here with the 150 units.
Right, so that's the kind of the meat of Pat's comments. We did take a first swipe at comparing impacts from what was originally reviewed and what is being reviewed now. Pat's brought up a host of secondary questions that we're prepared to answer. But I think Pat hit it on the head when he said that, you know, what we're using on the site in terms of land and land disturbance is actually less with this proposal. And the issues in terms of impacts that need a little closer look include traffic, include sewer and water, and include community services. And we did provide information on all 4 of those. And as I said, both Rich and Pat have brought up further questions, which we're prepared to dig in a little deeper on. Okay. And we plan on getting you more information on that to make sure that, in fact, you know, what we're proposing will fit inside the guise of, you know, the past studies, decisions, and allow us to move forward efficiently.
Okay. Also, as noted with the previous applicant, I know you're aware that we're going to act as the architecture review board here.
Correct.
I would contemplate us hiring our professionals on this. They're obviously more knowledgeable than we are, but just anticipate that too as you come forward, if we can speed things up at all.
Yeah, we're aware of that process, and we've provided our schematic elevation, floor plan info, but we can further develop that, get some colors, get going, and get that type of review. So we welcome that. Thanks.
Great.
Jeff, what's the breakdown again of units?
75 and 75.
Right, but it was mixed income affordable and then market rate?
Yeah, 70. So they're actually 2 separate projects, 2 separate developments. Each project will be 75 units. The affordable will be 17 ones, 17 threes, and 42s.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, yeah, that was going to be my next question. So they're going to be 2 separate? Okay.
Yes. As far as the architecture, Mr. Chairman, we, from the outside, the buildings, whether the affordable or the market rate, will look primarily the same. We use the same finishes on the outside. We never use vinyl siding. We always use hardy plank siding, and nice finishes. The market rate, the footprints will be larger. The apartments will be larger. The finishes will be better. As I mentioned a few months ago, I'd love to give a tour, if you like, our Beacon project. We built 73 units, working with Jeff and Insight, 73 units right on Walcott Avenue. Then we built a market rate building behind it. From the outside, the buildings look the same. We get very high rents in the market rate. The finishes are more. We have granite countertops, but it works. The affordable and the mixed income right next to market rate, it works. We actually, I think I shared with you, we actually kept an apartment. We go up there on weekends.
So question, when affordable, what's the income level for affordable?
Depending on the family size and on the bedroom size. The affordable for the 1 bedrooms is anywhere from $57,000 up to $75,000. But primarily, the majority of the units are at 60%. So the lower number I'm giving you, primarily most of the units are going to be there. We do have some units at 80 and 90%, but the bulk of the units are at 60%. On a two-bedroom, it goes by, do you have 3 people in the family or 4 people in the family? It'll be somewhere between $64,000 at 60% of median income up to $96,000. And for a 3-bedroom, again, going by the number of people in a 3-bedroom, you need at least 4 people to qualify for a 3-bedroom. It would be $71,000 up to $107,000. We believe, we haven't finalized our rents on the market rate, but we believe that the rents that we're charging for the 90% AMI units are just a little bit below what we think we're going to charge for the market rate units next door.
Another question too, so I know it's right near the hospital.
Yes.
Can you get to this development from the hospital grounds, or is there a separate entrance that they have to go to?
Jeff can talk about it. There's an access agreement with the hospital that was constructed probably 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah, so this was actually planned as part of the hospital's southerly entrance. So the newer entrance that was put in maybe 8 years ago or so, and the emergency room addition that we did with your board, all of that access is from this driveway. So what happens is down on Stoneleigh Avenue, it comes up, gets to the southerly parking lot and to the emergency room, and then that road extends. That road's actually built right to this point. Okay. This parking is the southerly parking at the hospital, and that road was built to connect into this particular property and ends right here. Sewer, water, drainage, gas, and electric all run to that point as well. So this was all planned as part of a common plan of development between the southerly access drive for the hospital and our development.
And there's no other entrance to it? That's the only way
That's
to
correct.
get in?
Right. That is the only way.
Okay, thank you.
Ken, can I just ask one other question? The mix of affordability limits that you just described, is that permanent and fixed forever? Can that change over time? Who has control over that?
Pat, that's a great question. When we lock into those affordable, on the affordable side, when we lock into them, there will be a regulatory agreement for 50 years. So for 50 years, we will have those income limits. A deed restriction is filed. So the answer is yes. It's a 50-year affordability. However, one of the low-income loans we get, the Housing Trust Fund loan, has a 30-year sunset. The way my son and I are planning, actually I think he's planning my estate, at the end of 30 years, we're going to pay that off with a refinance, and then it operates a little bit differently between years 30 and 50. There's a little more flexibility, but you still have to stay between those income bands. But what's important to remember is, I've worked in Westchester, which has very high income limits. Putnam County's income limits, they used to tie it to somewhere down in the city, but a couple years ago they changed. Putnam County's income limits are relatively high. For example, we're building a 75-unit building right now in Dutchess County, and we have some units at 80%, and those 80% limits are what you are at 60%, right? So everything is relative. But there is no regulatory agreement or any type of restriction on the market rate. That's whatever the market will bear.
So, Mr. Chairman, I wanted Ken to clarify that, because at some point in time, you'll grant an approval, you'll adopt a neg deck based on something. If the something is flexible or changing, it makes it more difficult. So that's a reassuring position that it's fixed for 50 years. So
On the affordable side, the market rate is
different.
market-driven.
Yep.
So at the end of 50 years, what happens?
The end of 50 years, I think I'll just be hitting my stride, and I think no, it can age out and opt out. If you remember, there was
Meaning it can go to market rate.
Yes. If you remember, there was a program, I don't know if you're familiar with it, Mitchell-Lama in New York City and in Westchester. They built a lot of affordable developments. They had a 40-year affordability, and they were built a lot in the 70s. Well, in the last 5 or 10 years, they've aged out, and they've converted. Most of them have converted to market rate very well. And so in 50 years, I'm hoping, we have projects now that have been in for 20 years, so 30 years from now, I'm hoping my grandchildren thought I was a smart guy. but it will probably go, the way our other projects are set up, there are 3 different critical timelines. At the end of 15 years, the limited partners, this is a 15-year limited partnership. We're the general partner. The limited partners own, they're the limiteds. The tax credits, the depreciation flow to them. My son and I are the general partner. We put up personal guarantees. We're responsible for everything. All they want is their tax return with the tax credits and the depreciation. In year 14, we notify them that the 15-year buyout is coming. We buy them out in year 15. It's already predetermined. They get a certain amount of the equity that's in the building, and then the general partners, my son and I, buy the remaining, we buy the limiteds out. That happens in year 15. Sometimes you recapitalize in year 15 if the buildings need it. It's been our experience that after 15, our buildings really didn't need it, but now you get to year 30. Our mortgage is up at year 30, and these low-interest loans are up at year 30 as well. There's another opportunity to recapitalize and put additional capital improvements in there, and then from year 30 to year 50 is when, at year 50 is when the regulatory agreement ends, and it can go market rate, yes.
So just drilling down a bit on the ownership, you have the general partners yourselves, and you have limited partners. The partnership itself, limited partnership, however you characterize it, they own the building?
Yes.
And are these, I assume, are not being structured as condominiums?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, it's a, there can't be a condominium, it can't be individual ownerships under this structure. It's for the tax credits to flow and the monies to flow. It can be a couple separate deeds. I've had that in the past, but no, it's one ownership.
I just wanted to add one thing. We did 2 projects here in town under the same program, not with Ken. So Hillcrest Commons and Houston Commons are both projects. They happen to be senior projects, but Ken's aware of the programs that they were funded and built under, which is the same basic programs, right?
So one of the things that Pat has in his comments is a fiscal impact study, and I would be, speaking for myself, very interested in seeing that. I'd like to understand how both the market rate side versus the low-income side affects our tax revenues.
I understand. We will have that for you. I've had preliminary discussions, as I mentioned last time, on the affordable side. There is a law in place which says you have to tax a certain way. So if hypothetically, and it's not final yet, we're looking at some numbers, but between the affordable and the market rate, if I had to guess, I think it's going to be somewhere between the entire project, $750,000 to $800,000 a year.
But again, I'd like to understand the breakdown between both
The majority
sides.
is going to be on the market rate.
That's what I want to understand.
It is. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. And I think that what I'm finding, our model continues to evolve. When we're combining a market rate on the same campus as an affordable, it's helping municipalities balance. We did that in Beacon as well, and we're looking at that in other areas. We understand the concern, but on the affordable side, you have limitations on what you can charge. So we have restrictions, and but we're hoping the market rate will help.
And then one other question. You mentioned, Craig mentioned that we serve as the architectural review board as well, and you mentioned that you have some units or projects that you've done in Summers. Again, speaking for myself, I'm concerned about, this is a fairly beautiful area, the specific location for these. Yeah, there's a hospital there, but I'm concerned about how this looks from the road and what we see. Are you locked into a particular architectural plan based on, for example, what you've done in Summers?
No, not actually. We, I think Somers is a different model. I think, well, first of all, I'll ask Jeff, I'll put you on the spot. I think even in the fall, when the leaves are down, I don't think you're going to see these buildings from, not that they're not going to be nice to look at, but I don't think there's going to be a huge visual impact.
Well, let me be specific. You know, I did see the elevations that were in the materials. I'm not exactly thrilled with them. You know, I'd like to see something with a little bit of New England in it, and that's not New England.
Okay. We will work with you. We will work with your consultant to get there.
Yep.
I have two questions.
Sure.
First is you mentioned another development that you guys had done. You mentioned Walcott. Can you be a little more, where is it?
Sure, it's right to the left of City Hall in the city of Beacon.
City of Beacon?
So Walcott Avenue is AKA Route 9D.
9D.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you just look at City Hall, go to the left, it's called West End Lofts. It was more of a, we designed it as an urban model. They wanted brick to match the buildings downtown on Main Street, or half a block from Main Street, so it had more of an urban look. But there's 3 buildings. The 2 in the front are a limited partnership owned by West End Lofts Limited Partnership, and the building in the back is owned by myself and my sons. That's market rate. And if the board wants to take a field trip at some point, even if it's after the architect is, consultant is engaged, I can show you inside. I can show you the finishes. The finishes in the affordable mixed income are quite nice as well, but it's a little bit different with the market.
No doubt. And then the other question is, a traffic study, has one ever been done for this project?
Yeah.
So yes, the traffic study was done originally with the
Way back.
EIS, right?
Okay, but
And
since-
what was submitted recently from Tim Miller Associates are some updated numbers in terms of traffic generation and a brief analysis of what that means. That Pat did ask us, and Rich also asked us, to further expand that study and get a little more granular on it, so we will do that.
All right, well, the reason I bring it up is because since it was the original plan came, you know, we've had a lot of changes over there, that the hospital expanded and so on and so forth. And I think, and we should probably get some input from the hospital as well, because you're really sharing an entrance to the emergency room, and there may be some things that the hospital can raise as far as, you know, sharing that access that we as a board wouldn't be aware of, or even our consultants. So I think we owe it to them at least to bring it to their attention and say, hey, this is the plan, this is the layout, and, you know, what do you guys think?
I've met with them.
Okay.
I've met with them, and I expect to meet with the parent court, New Vance Health, very shortly. But I think, you know, there has been some transition in the hospital. There's been some groups that have left, pulled out, both to Connecticut and down. I think the traffic is less there now than it was 10 years ago. But I have met with them, and I'm going to continue that dialogue. But so far, it's been well received, and it seems very reasonable. But I'll continue.
The only reason I bring it up, well, particularly, was because when we were approving the addition to the hospital, and I mean, there was a gentleman that came in from the hospital, and he spoke about, you know, the access and the and he was extremely knowledgeable and brought up things that we didn't even think of. So that's why I bring it up. I just think their input is invaluable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ray, the traffic analysis is challenging now because times are different, right? The parking lots at the train stations are empty, people are driving to work more, even down to the city again. If you get on the highways, you notice that. So it's hard to do traffic counts now and assume they're correct or accurate. So there's going to be a lot of extrapolations into it. It's just more challenging to do that work these days. So just be aware. And just one other point that I just thought, Ken mentioned this, the 50-year time span of the affordability. those projects have a second life, as Ken described with the Mitchell-Lama projects, which means there's a significant incentive to maintain those properties in great condition because they do get a second life, and there's another round of financing that goes into all that. So you should take some reassurance in the fact that, aside from Ken's track record, obviously, we're dealing with a good developer here, but even if it was not the case, there's a significant incentive to maintain these projects for the long term.
Good point.
Well, thank you, Pat. And further to that, so I started this business when we lived out on Echo Lane on Mapac Point, and it started with a couple buildings in Beacon, in 3 buildings. And the first money I used had a 20-year affordability. It burned off, and we still own those buildings now. They're market rate. And so they're at the other end from where West End Loss is. It's down at the other end over on Fishkill Creek. But it wasn't 50 years, it was 20 years. It opted out. We maintained it for the whole 20 years. We didn't have to recapitalize it. We just kept maintaining the building, and now the family continues to own it, and we will own it long term. We don't sell anything, right? We don't sell anything. So
I think we discussed this last time you were in front of us. How will the occupancy take place as far as, I think maybe we talked about a lottery at one
Yes.
point. I had asked if Putnam or Cornwall residents would have the first crack. Has anything changed, or how, just for the sake of the board, would you restate that?
no, sure. There will be an outreach to all prospective applicants. And then the applications come in, and we process them. There's a lottery. It has to be random. It's not first come, first serve. It can be first come, first serve on the market rate. But on the affordable side, they want to give everybody an opportunity. Because what we have found, most of our developments have between 300 and 400 applications. In Beacon, for example, we had 350 applications. So everybody gets a number in the lottery, and we pick it out, and we process that accordingly. And then we go through the steps, right? The criminal background, the background checks, the income verification, very important, prior landlord history, and so forth. But it is lottery. We cannot give a preference to Cornwall residents. What we found, probably Beacon was the first project that we've done that we didn't get to the end of the list. Every project we've done, we've got, even with the senior projects over in Baldwin Place, we wound up going to the end of the list for whatever reason.
So what areas would you be outreaching to? It's not just Putnam. How big is this net that you cast?
Yeah, I think it's...
Is it like within a 50-mile radius?
No, I don't think it's that far, but I think it's... I think there's... it'll be Westchester. It'll be Dutchess.
Connecticut?
Maybe. But with social media today, a lot of the advertising that you do, is on social media, and that goes all over.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the net's cast both ways. Ken's seeking tenants, and people are seeking affordable projects. So it goes both ways.
Yeah. Thank you.
New York State residents don't get preference?
That hasn't been my experience. With the project we did down at Peekskill, it was an artist project, and we wound up getting artists from California.
I'm just asking because you would think New York State money.
I know.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Yeah,
I thought the same thing.
I know.
Well, they all become New York State residents.
No, I understand, but you would think that if we have a problem with housing in New York, you would take residents from New York with the New York money.
Just a question on the traffic study. Does that include, future bus stops and things for that community and worrying about, buses going in and out for the school kids?
Yeah,
Especially that one entrance?
Yeah, so our firm did not do the traffic study. It was done by Tim Miller Associates, who's one of our team members, environmental planners. I don't believe they addressed both the public transit component or the school bus component. But we can get them to, as part of their expanded discussion, to address both of those.
Yeah. That one entrance really bothers me. I don't know why. Maybe it's the emergency room entrance too. I don't know. There's a lot of traffic in and out.
Yeah, that would have to be an interesting traffic study and traffic flow, I guess, right?
If I'm not mistaken, though, this is not going to be a road dedicated to the town. It's going to maintain private property.
Yes,
So that would be
the agreement between this property and the hospital lays out how it's maintained and the cost sharing and so forth.
Right. Well, the point I'm making is then the school district at least Mayapack, I don't know about Cornwall, but Mayapack will not go on private roads. So that's something we probably have to follow up with the Cornwall School District to find out about.
And I'm going through this in another location. And this has happened in some locations. I'm not suggesting it's going to happen here. But the school district usually takes the position that they won't come up a private road. So we will seek to build a bus shelter where we can. What normally happens is once the development gets occupied, the tenants or whoever get organized and they start calling. And I've seen the policy change. It just changed right down the street. So it's now changed. But when I show up, it's let's put it over here. So what I would like to do, what we would like to do is to eventually plan for it. And at the, where the property starts now, we'll put a separate shelter, anticipating that maybe someday all those voices will be heard and there'll be more flexibility.
All right, that brings up the bigger issue is what do you normally see at the bottom of a private road is a bunch of cars. This is now a bunch of cars that'll be close to an emergency room exit. Actually, they won't go that far. Depends on how far the bus goes up. So that's something that really needs to be looked at. Because if Cornwall bus is not going to go to that secondary road, it's going to go to Stoneleigh. I don't know that, theoretically, right? And so now all those cars will be at the bottom of an emergency room exit. Now what? So, I mean, that really should be something that is focused on and looked at. I mean, it's a concern, whether or not it's legitimate or not, it's still a concern that should be looked at.
Okay, but pragmatically, I think that this is going to be the last stop on the route. You are at the end of the town and the county line, and it very well may be the last stop for the bus. If that's the case, where are they turning around? They have to turn around. So they're not going to continue down Stoneleigh and go over the reservoir and head toward Croton Falls. As part of when the access agreement was built, and Jeff firm designed that was what, 2009, 2010? Yeah. They also, as part of it, the parking lot expansion was done. And if you go to the hospital, I invite you to go to the hospital any time, you'll see the parking lot that was built as part of this. It's underutilized. It's very, very underutilized.
Yep.
And this is all ifs and buts, because if they have enough kids there, they may fill 2 buses. We don't know that until you find out what your tenancy is, because there may be no buses, but it could be fill up 2 buses there. You never know what it's going to be exactly.
And then there's still the issue of where they're going to turn around. Can they use the parking lot? Can they not use the parking lot? Will they use the parking lot? Again, the ifs and buts.
I
right?
think the traffic flow will be important. Vicki mentioned it. With the one entrance there, it's a lot going on that one.
I think those are all good questions and legitimate concerns, really. And what we have to do is start with the school, talk to them about what they will do, what they won't do, and then we'll show you how that would work and how we would accommodate it. But we understand it's a really good point.
Okay, any other questions? If not, Ken and Jeff will just assume you'll be working with the team and moving the ball forward.
Yes. We'll be applying for funding next month. It's a very comprehensive application, and it's due, I think, August 20-something or other. But we'll be working hard on that. Once we get more information, we'll be back in front of you. Okay?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jeff. Next on the agenda, Western Bluff Subdivision, 350 West Shore Drive. It's a 3-lot subdivision. Good evening. Mike?
This has been around for a while. I don't know if everybody knows about this project. They proposed a 3-lot subdivision off West Shore Drive in Cornwall. A wetland permit will be required from the ECB. I think they're actually there, but didn't get the actual permit yet, but I could be wrong. All zoning comments have been addressed for preliminary, I have no further comments at this time.
Rich, I know you had a couple of comments, right?
Correct, Mr. Chairman. So it's a 14.79 acre parcel being divided into 3 lots. It's located on West Shore Drive. Referral to the May Impact Fire Department should be made. It was done in 17. For the applicant, no response has been provided. UCB permit is needed. Department of Health for water and sewer, or septic, sorry. Town of Cornwall Highway Department needed for the driveway onto West Drive. They have noted the need for these permits and referrals, but none have been provided. Stormwater pollution prevention plan is needed. The information, the applicant has noted that it may not be eligible to receive coverage under the general stormwater permit. Additional information has not been provided with regards to SWIPs. They have provided a approved SWIP from the New York City DEP. Requirements set forth in section 131.13 preliminary plat have not been provided. Includes proposed utility layouts, proposed covenants or deeds or restrictions, identification of copies of filed maps of all properties within 500 feet. There is no information regarding the areas proposed for open space. The applicant has noted this is a conventional subdivision with no planned open space. A note must be provided on the drawing, and there should be a payment in lieu of reservation of land. Public improvements, applicant will develop a quantity takeoff for bonding purposes. Applicant noted the need for a bond, but no update has been provided for the stormwater maintenance bond. In general, a lot of the updates that were in the detailed comments have not been provided on the grand scheme of things. So just wanted to let the board know. The only thing they gave us is a SWIP that was approved by the New York City DEP.
Thank you, Rich. And Pat?
So we worked on this subdivision 2 years ago. I think they were before you. You spent a good deal of time. It's a 3-lot subdivision. We got to the point where we were comfortable with the sketch plan, moving him on to preliminary approval. The sequencing of these applications when the DEP is involved is that the DEP won't review the SWIP until we adopt a negative declaration, until we complete the SEQA review. So we completed the SEQA review, adopted a negative declaration 2 years ago. And candidly, they've been with DEP since that time, working through that process. So that's why we haven't seen them. They've completed that process. Now they're back to us. We can schedule a public hearing on this. It's a minor subdivision, and we can continue and complete the process that we started a while ago. That's why it may be unfamiliar with you. It's been a while since we saw it.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, John Kellard, engineer for the applicant. We have spent the last couple of years working with New York City DEP. We went through a very detailed SWIP, which was approved, and we received the stormwater permit from DEP. We've also have tested the septic areas with the health department, and the health department is, I would say, 95% complete on their review. We provided a subdivision plat with our application, and the septic and well information is on that plat. We've also, and I don't think Brian he may not have sent you the correspondence with DEC, but we submitted the DEC for clarification on the general permit, and they responded back that we can have coverage under the general permit. And I'll provide you that documentation.
Thank you.
So we're quite a ways along with the health department. DEP is completed. County highway, we haven't gone for our permit, but I can say the fellow that issues the permits had worked for me on this project, and he actually designed the entrance for the project. So I think he'll be happy with it.
So one entrance for the 3 lots?
Yes.
How does that work?
It's a common driveway. It comes in, we felt it's located at the best location for sightline.
Yep.
It avoids the wetland, obviously, to the south. When we initially come into the property, the lot 3. I'm sorry. Lot 3 to the left of the entrance, the driveway branches off immediately. Then the lots 1 and 2 continue up the hill, where 1 would then branch off. Sure.
you know, we may have spent 5 meetings dealing with that particular issue. We really went over this in significant detail, if you remember.
But each of the lots does have frontage, so no open development was required. They're just sharing a driveway because it's the
Yes,
ideal place to
exactly
come
right.
out.
Correct. The pink color is the wetland area itself, so we wanted to avoid the wetlands. The shaded beige color is the steep slopes, so we wanted to avoid the steep slopes. So we developed one single entrance with where we have the maximum sight line from that point. And at that point, we come in about 100 feet, and the driveway to Lot 3 is branched off, and that complete driveway is on Lot 3. So we'll have an easement over Lot 3 for lots 1 and 2, and then we will have an easement over Lot 2 for access for Lot 1. And then Lot 2 would continue up to the top of the site.
Do you know where Farview is in relation to the entrance?
The exact distance, it might be about 150 feet.
Which way?
To the south.
Okay.
This is Farview here. And this is the entrance,
Oh, I'm looking at a different.
just to the south.
Oh, okay. Great, thank you.
The plans are quite detailed. They're graded. All the drainage is shown on the plans. The tree removal, any trees that are to be removed, there's a tree removal plan provided. We have gone to the Environmental Conservation Board. They suggested we come back after we receive DEP approval. We've resubmitted to their office. I had spoken to Rose last week. She thought it might be a little early to go back to them, although I asked for an appearance in August, so I'm not sure if I'm on the agenda or not in August.
Yeah, I think, John, the referral was dependent on the reaction of the planning board. If the planning board was satisfied, I think then it's appropriate to go back to ECB.
There is no open space. We will obviously pay the recreation fee for that because they're large individual lots.
Yeah.
Each lot is 4 to 5 acres in size.
Nice sized lots.
And it's heavily wooded, the
Yes,
site.
I went out
Very-
there.
yeah.
Any other comments?
So, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I would offer is there's a lot of material that's required that Rich has noted in particular. If you open the public hearing, we should keep that public hearing open until that material is provided. So, John, is that material forthcoming? Should we delay opening a public hearing because it's 6 months of work to get that material, or?
Can we just clarify the material? Because I'm before the health department and I have correspondence from the health department I can
No,
provide.
it's more than that, landscaping plans and everything else that's needed for the project, I believe, so.
So, actually, Pat, it's interesting because one of my notes here said we need to close on Rich's comments. Yeah, I think if,
Well, we need driveway cross sections, right?
So just procedurally, our subdivision process is sketch plan, preliminary approval, and final approval. For a minor subdivision, which is 5 lots or less, you can sort of go right to final approval. So if that's how the board is leaning on this, all that material is necessary, because theoretically, we're dealing with final approval. If the applicant needs preliminary approval to gain some approval from another agency first, then some of that information would get rolled over to the final stage.
I'm just reluctant to go much further until we satisfy our Rich.
Yeah, and, Mr. Chairman, we've learned the lesson about keeping public hearings open. So it's prudent not to have a public hearing until we're ready to have it and close it, rather than have it open
Exactly.
endlessly.
At this point, I'd rather wait an additional, hopefully just 2 weeks or,
Yeah,
you know.
we don't have an issue with that.
I'm not sure you can close them, but just, yeah.
Yeah, we'll make sure Rich is satisfied with the
Yeah.
details. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll have Rose will be sending out all the comments tomorrow. for
Okay,
all-
that'd be
yeah,
great.
so She'll send it out to you.
Yeah, you'll have them right in front of you, you can check them off as you can
Fine.
complete. When you get close,
And if
then
we
we'll
need a little
schedule.
clarification, I can call you.
You can call me next week. I'm off tomorrow and Friday,
Good.
but you can call me next week. So
Okay, enjoy.
don't call me tomorrow, I can't answer.
Enjoy.
All right, that'd be
That's
great.
great, yeah, and if we could have one combined hearing, preliminary and final together, then
Yeah.
that would,
I
that would
think we
be
could do that.
terrific.
You've done your due diligence. Another one of my notes says you've done a lot of due diligence.
Yeah.
here. We just want to get this a little bit closer, and then
Yeah, we'll
if we can
finish-
help on the back end by combining the resolution and the public hearing, as long as there's no major outcry from the public, we'll do, which we don't expect, I don't believe, so.
That'll be great. And just for clarification, I should wait to go to the Conservation Board?
Rich, do you have a view on if you should wait to go to the Conservation Board, or do that in parallel to meeting with you?
Why don't we clarify our comments so that the board is satisfied? So if you wait 2 weeks and then go to the ECB after that, that might be more prudent.
Fine,
Great.
great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Next on the agenda is Fonte Subdivision, 419 Union Valley Road, sketch plan, 2 lots. Mike, I know you had some comments on this?
Yes, the applicant proposes to divide a lot off the existing lot. The existing lot has a house on it, to create one additional building lot. The existing lot, which is Lot 2 on the plan, with the existing house now needs a 288 variance as the frontage is now with Lot 1, which is the newly created lot. Provide an easement for review by the planning board attorney. That's just for the Lot 2 to cross Lot 1. The setbacks are 40, 25, and 40. You wrote per me was, I think, 30 on the rear, but it's 40, but you still comply, so there's no problem. It's just changing the zoning table. Lot depth for Lot 2 needs to be discussed with the engineer. I don't know what your surveyor did, so maybe if you come in, I'll show you how I would do it, and then we can check and see what the numbers are, so you can go to zoning board.
I thought we did that. You and I met with that.
We did, but whatever's drawn on there doesn't match what we discussed. I'll show you
Okay.
afterwards. But a variance is required because the lot depth line exits and re-enters the lot.
Okay. And, thanks, Mike. Rich?
Mike mentioned it's a 12-acre parcel. Lot 1 would be about 4 acres, Lot 2 would be 8 acres. Existing structure on Lot 2, Lot 1 is proposed to be developed with a residential dwelling. The development of Lot 1 will need to come back to the planning board. Preliminary comments, applicant should provide a separate subdivision plat. It was one big drawing. Configuration of Lot 1 will require a variance as it does not have road frontage. Driveway maintenance agreements between the 2 lots should be provided. Steep slope analysis was provided, thank you, Jack, but it should be in color. It was just hard to read and see where the different steep slopes were. A note should be added to the plan, specify all stone walls should not be disturbed. Board should be aware the drawing does not contain information regarding areas proposed to be reserved for open space. As the subdivision plans are refined, missing elements of section 131.13 should be incorporated into design plans. So in general, we have no objection to the subdivision as presented. However, the future Lot 1 will have to have standard referrals to DEC, DEP, Health Department, Highway, Mayapack Fire. Permits would be for stormwater, for DEP, maybe for stormwater and subsurface treatment, Putnam County for well, ECB for wetlands. There should be an area of total disturbance, so we know what the requirements are under the stormwater regulations. Any public improvements will require bond and engineering fee, and a stormwater maintenance bond and guarantee may be required for the project.
Thank you, Rich. Thanks. Pat?
So just to summarize a couple of issues, so the obvious issues Mike indicated, the creation of a landlocked parcel, so that has to be addressed in some manner. The 280A is one way of dealing with that. That's a town board approval. There is, as Rich indicated, a steep slope map that was submitted in support of this. So on the new lot, there are some constrained areas, steep slopes, there's a pond. It appears as though the house is in the area of the steepest slopes. So is that, are you limited to being there for some reason related to the septic system or whatever? Ordinarily, we'd like you to get it out of the steep slopes, obviously. So if you could tell us why it's there, or if it could be adjusted to minimize the impacts, that's sort of an objective we have. The driveway, as everybody has mentioned, requires easements, but I think there's also a sharing of the driveway with the adjacent property as well, and I didn't see any easements associated with that, so I think it's 117 Union Valley. So if there's a third house that shares that driveway, easements would be necessary for
When you
that.
go
as
up
well.
that driveway, there's a house on
To
the
the
right.
right.
Brown.
Then you keep going further, there's a gated, and that's where this other house is gonna go back on that property.
Exactly
So I was
right.
curious about that house on the right also.
So theoretically, there's a third party that shares that driveway that would have to be addressed.
Pat, I discussed with Joe about that 288 question. The lot in the back is not being created, it's already there. The lot in the front is, and that has the frontage, so we said 288. Open development would be the town board one.
Just walk us through.
So, you know, when you come off of Union Valley Road,
This Union Valley Road, this is an existing driveway that goes around, very serpentine to Mr. Fonte's. Fonte's owned the whole property, Frank Fonte, landscaper. He built this house, that's the father. The son wants to build a house here, which comes off of a section of this driveway. The septic system is going to be up in here. We already did holes. True, the house is in an area of somewhat steep slopes, but it's on several elevations. The owner wants the house in that location so it overlooks the pond.
It's going to face out towards the road.
Excuse me?
The front of the house is facing out towards Union Valley on an angle?
The front of the house is this direction, and the back of the house is here, yeah. So they'll have a view of the pond from the rear yard. I can colorize but are we sure that it's a town board and not a zoning board issue?
It's zoning board. 288
For the
is zoning board.
For the 288, and so is the depth thing, depth.
The depth will be zoning board as well, correct?
So what we're asking tonight is, so we get a referral to the zoning board, because if we don't get the depth variance or the 288 variance, we have nothing. Wouldn't that make sense? Yeah, there is a limit of disturbance on the plan, it's like a half an acre.
what's the other house on the right, is that?
Yeah,
Driveway, there's a house.
there's a house in here.
Yeah.
I don't know how that came about. I don't know, Mike, do you know how that came about?
Apparently, there's no easement for them.
Well, that, an easement will be granted, I mean,
Yeah, but apparently
obviously.
there's no easement for them, and their access is off Union Valley Road, but that is such a terrible corner out there, they went through there apparently.
That's it.
So there'll be 3 houses using that one driveway.
That's correct.
Yes, but the access, the present access off of Union Valley for the Fonte house and this house is a good location.
That's correct.
Yeah, the location.
But if you go a
for
little
this
further
the
down,
other
it gets-
location, you're right. And I don't, Rich didn't mention this, but this common driveway, or this driveway is 15 feet wide up to the 2 pillars that you mentioned. I guess the question is, are you going to require us to go 15 feet wide to the second, to where this new house is coming in? And the alternative is to put the you can come out the other side, but they want the driveway there, so.
We don't require it, but the zoning board may to give you the 288.
To what?
If the zoning board's going to give you the 288 variance, they may require that. That may be a condition of the approval.
That's fine, yeah,
That could be, but they may not require it also.
okay. Yeah, that other piece is between 12 and 15 feet wide.
Sometimes they ask for a little bump out in case 2 cars come at the same time. Somebody can pull over, let somebody pass, and then go back, so they're not.
Right, right.
I mean, we're lucky right now, they're both family, but eventually, they may
Yeah.
not both be
No, I
family, so.
understand it.
Right, so you're asking that question, but then how are oil trucks going to get down there? How are delivery trucks going to get down there?
Right,
What
right.
happens at that point in time if you
The
have a
same way they
10-foot
get
wide
down
driveway?
to, the same way they get down to the existing house, which is much more.
Well, you asked for the new driveway, though.
Well, the
Would
new
be-
driveways just come straight off the,
But you asked the question about 15-foot.
Yes.
Would you actually maintain a 15-foot driveway? Mike answered the question saying zoning board may require it. The thought process should be, you got 15-foot there, and there's no issues maybe with trucks and deliveries, so maybe you keep it at 15-foot, because if you make it smaller, you might have issues with that. You have another driveway going down, right? And there's going to be 2 houses off of it, or just 1 house?
there's one new house that's going off of the upper section of that driveway. if you want a 15-foot wide driveway to the point of the intersection of the new house driveway with the existing driveway, then we would have to do that.
Well, I don't want it. I think you need to give that assessment, show a traffic, show graphic, movement of vehicles throughout the property. What's going to be used there? What's going to be delivered there? That's a standard thing that we ask for. So you got to really kind of show that so we have an understanding. It's not like you're going to have a semi going down there, but you will have an oil truck. We'll be able to make turns. We'll be able to do all that kind of stuff in the new driveway you're proposing.
But the new driveway comes straight off of this existing driveway. And oil trucks are going down this serpentine driveway now. And it's 15 feet up to the pillars, which is the top of the hill. I don't know if you ever went out to the site, but, all right, so there is a 15-foot driveway, probably 3/4 of the distance to the proposed driveway. And like I said, the driveway is between 12 and 15 feet wide.
So it's a standard evaluation, and we're adding a home, and the grade of the 15-foot driveway may be inadequate, so it's simply answer the question. It's a simple exercise to do, and you have the authority to adjust that or modify it if you think it's necessary. Probably not, but let's see the evidence.
Okay.
I personally think another 2 weeks closing on mostly of Richard's concerns here with the steep slopes and the driveways and the movement of vehicles. At this point, I don't think 2 weeks makes I'm not sure what the board thinks here, but I don't think 2 weeks makes much of a difference here to just close on some of these things. Most of these issues seem to be zoning board issues, but I think I don't like sending anything to the zoning board that's not prepared.
Yeah, because you could grant the variance on a project that you don't feel is ripe. That's the issue we always have. So, yeah, you should be comfortable.
Anthony?
I agree.
So, Jack?
Well, 2 weeks is going to be a month because you have I have to submit before X number of days before the meeting.
Well, if you get to Rich early next week, I think we could get you on the next agenda.
Well, he's on vacation. And
that's why I said next
I'm
week.
on vacation.
I'm on vacation tomorrow and Friday, so.
Me too.
That's the real.
So look, let's. We'll
Well,
try to push. Look, this is the first time we're seeing this.
Yes.
I feel more comfortable with some of these questions answered.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. Rich can get me the comment. Can you give me
Rich,
the
did you
comment?
get Jack?
We'll also be sending all the comments out to everybody who was here tonight who is deserving of comments. So Rose will get them all to you.
Can you send it to me off your computer tonight?
I don't know if I can do it. I'll try to do it when I go upstairs.
Then I can send it to my AutoCAD guy.
But I don't have anybody else's comments that I can send.
Just whenever you get them to me.
No, I'll try to, I'll go upstairs when I'll send it.
Jack, we'll try to push us along if it's the right thing to do, but just bear with us here. We're not
Okay.
trying to slow you down at all.
That's not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. New York Fuel, Cocoa Farms for a bond return, 19223 Route 6 in Cornwall.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman?
Rich, any questions?
No, in short, the bond can be returned. We did a site, a field inspection on the property on July 2nd. And the site improvements required pursuant to the board's site plan approval have been completed. That included the New York State DOT work. Applicant had posted a bond amount of $163,000 on May 14th in 2018. On this basis, the department recommends the bond be returned.
Okay, I don't believe Pat or Mike had any comments, correct? So
I
it's
inspected
not-
it also, it was all good.
All right, Mr. Chairman, with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to schedule a public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So 2 weeks from now, public hearing.
Very good.
And then I don't think we anticipate any issues with that.
Sure.
But then you'll be able to get the bond.
Okay, very good. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Rose distributed minutes of July 15th, 2021. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Did you get to look at them? No.
All right, let's hold them over.
No, I reviewed them.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the July 15, 2021 meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good night.